This is an update on the Harley Wishbone frame build. This is going to be episode number 20, and I can see that it's already been 3 months since I last posted. So we're on air. We're going to talk about the frame. I have been busy, those of you who are following my Nomad project, trying to get that body off and get a body dolly built for it. And I finally decided to kind of circle back and figure out what's up with this Wishbone frame project. In the last video, I talked about some kind of a porta-power operation to try to get clearance on the sidecar loops. And I finally got a set of crankcases borrowed from my friend Jesse, and try to get those put in the frame. And we talked about porta-power versus maybe just grinding a little bit off the back of the sidecar loops, and then the generator style motor would slip in. Well, I did some grinding and a little bit more grinding, pulled the cases out, a little more grinding, put the cases back in, pulled them out, a little more grinding, and when I got done, this was all that was left. In the process of deciding to do the grinding, I pretty much knew that it was either going to fix the problem or I was going to be in deep trouble. And it looks like deep trouble won out here. As I did multiple passes on the grinding on the back of the sidecar loop, I got to a spot where I thought I had ground through and exposed where the tube fit in the counter bore, at which point I knew that my only alternative was to go ahead and take the sidecar loops completely off. Those of you who followed the build, you might remember that I did a little bit of belly aching about the quality of those sidecar loop castings. That was an eBay purchase. I'd have to look back. Those might have been $100 a pair or something. And even when I got them first, besides the fact that the left was marked right and the right was marked left, even flipping those things around, it always bothered me that the geometry, meaning how the tube comes in here and exit here, that angle must be off. So as you can see, I've taken the sidecar loop completely off, and even the face of the tube is still contacting the generator boss on the cases. Now, I was in manufacturing for the last 25 years of my professional life, and one of the things when you talk about failure analysis and, more importantly, root cause, I'm scratching my head now trying to figure out, was there one thing that went wrong or several things that went wrong? I do, those people that were following back around episode 12, I think it is, I knew that these down tubes, which were a V-twin part, were really garbage. I'll keep saying that. And I had ended up building this fixture to get them heated and bent. I had a 1948 frame in my possession and used that as the pattern for trying to get these reformed. And then I did finally get, I got everything into the neck, I had them in the sidecar loops, the frame, etc. Everything fit and looked perfectly. Now, when this thing was welded together, there was kind of like a first pass to get the bottom cradle welded together. And then we came back and did all of the welding up at the top. So here are the possibilities. Number one, my lower frame tubes, which I stitched together, there's a possibility that this bend is wrong. Would only have to be off just a little bit, meaning tilted back. I don't know for sure. I do know that like these cases, this is a set of S&S cases that belong to my buddy. Those things are sitting flat on both the front and rear motor mounts now without even having those tubes connected. I have, bolts in, that's loose, that's tight. That side is loose. This one will go in if I tap it in, and this one is tight. But all 4 bolts can be put in, not quite as much jiggle room as I would like. And the motor is sitting flat. So this bend might be off. The sidecar loops, they used to be up in there kind of like that. Those things might have misformed. The wishbone frame tubes, definitely had problems with them, and I might have overlooked some flatness issues on that. I don't know about the neck. That might have been possible. I've even wondered, well, 2 things on the backbone. With all of the welding here and here and here and here, could it have pulled the neck down? That's a possibility. There's also a chance, I checked this thing a bunch of times to compare it to completed frames, but I've wondered, do I have the right length on my backbone, from here to here, which if that neck was back, it would put that tube back. One of the things was a mistake on my part was when we went to weld the top together, I didn't pay close enough attention to getting these frame tubes, the down tubes, clocked to their proper orientation. And you can see now this flat spot that's on the back of both these tubes, that's where the little horn mount blocks were going to get welded on. Now I discovered this after it was welded, that those things had gotten rotated, but I didn't really appreciate until I clamped this board on here just how far off it was. I knew that if I welded those blocks, it was going to take some creative fixturing so I'd actually even be able to put a horn on the back of that thing. And now that I'm looking at that thing, thinking, wow, something's wrong there. Now, not so much on this side, but this other tube over here, I don't think this and this are in the same plane, besides not being rotated. And you can imagine these legs, if you turned them, because they have the offset on it, its effect would have, it would swing this thing back and forth. So in terms of failure analysis and root cause, I'm really not sure, to be quite honest. It could be a variety of reasons. Anyway, so as we've already seen, I cut out the sidecar loops. Those things are history, and now I've got somebody needs sidecar loop repair on an existing frame. I got a pair of those. I have already ordered a new set of sidecar loop castings, and these actually have the foundry markings on them, so it's going to be a little upgrade on it. Now, unfortunately, because I cut off the old castings, you can see this was the top, and that thing stuck that far down in there. And then the bottom, that thing stuck. I cut a little bit off the top there when I cut the sidecar loop out. So that thing was in there. And I won't be able to install a new sidecar loop without getting these tubes out of the way. Now, one of the things, if that ends up being the solution, one idea is to cut these tubes off, like right here at the tape line. This piece of tube is nice and straight there. I could cut these off and I can rotate them so that they're flat across this here, or I can confirm that these things, they have to be bent in both the X and Y planes, meaning this thing should lay flat on the table, and I'm not sure this left side one will do that. It's possible, you know, not a bottle jack, but a port of power, possibly raising this neck up. I've thought about cutting off the neck and maybe moving that forward. It's an awful job trying to get that thing, the stress tube, cut out of here, do a nice job without nicking up the backbone, and then I'd have to cut it here and drill these out, and I don't think that that's the answer. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait until my sidecar loops show up and then make a decision about cutting these down tubes off and just trying to fix this and then leaving the backbone alone for now. I mean, the motor's sitting nice and flat. I can get both bolts in, or all 4 bolts in, you know, and I'm sure that this is all in the same plane orientation, you know, through the transmission mounts in the back. Then the back is good. So that's the update. I will wait for those sidecar loops to show up. I'll make a decision about cutting these things off and or maybe trying to put a port of power and maybe jack the neck up to try to set these out. I can't push that too far forward because then it won't hit the angle that's included in the sidecar loop. So I have to deal with that. But that's no bueno. Can't get the motor in. So it was a bold move to try to weld that thing together without putting it in a frame table or a frame fixture. And it came back to bite me in the butt. Plus, I was a little careless in making sure all the pieces were properly clocked and oriented before we started burning things in. So, that's the update for today, episode number 20. We'll see what happens next. Like, comment, share, and subscribe if you haven't done so. Thanks for watching.